Good morning, students. Welcome back to Java programming class. In our last session, we discussed about some of the concepts in inheritance. We discussed about method overriding and the differences between method overloading and method overriding. Then we have discussed about the different types of binding techniques. So the static binding and dynamic binding to achieve runtime polymorphism. We have also discussed the abstraction concepts in Java. We studied about abstract classes, abstract methods, and how we create an abstract class to achieve the abstraction, and what is an abstract method and how it is different from a concrete method. So all these we discussed in our previous session. So there are few concepts that we need to complete in the abstraction, and that we will do in today's session. And we also discuss about the this keyword in your Java programming. So as I said in my previous session, super and this keywords, these two keywords are important, like your static and final keywords. Static, final keyword, one question we can expect. Then this and super keyword, another question we can expect. So sometimes they will frame a question, a short answer question with only one keyword. Like they will ask you about, they will ask you to write about only the static or final keyword or super or this keyword, like that. They will ask for 2 marks. It is a short answer question, but sometimes what they do, they will frame an LAQ, long answer question bit, with the help of 2 keywords. Like they will ask you to write about static and final keywords, or they will ask you to write about super and this keyword, like an LAQ bit. Okay, so whatever they do, you should be ready with the concept. You should be ready with the understanding. Okay, so that we will do in today's session, because we already studied about the super keyword, and in today's session we'll be discussing about the this keyword as well. Hopefully we'll do that. So quickly, the method overriding concept, the differences between method overloading and method overriding, and different types of binding techniques, static binding and dynamic binding. Then the abstraction in Java. So abstraction is the process of hiding the implementation details and showing only the functionality to the user. So to understand this one, I have given the real-time example as well. So what we are doing, implementation we are hiding, and we are only giving the functionality, the usage to the end user. Let us take the example of a remote control, TV remote control. Inside it, we are going to have a lot of electronic circuitry, isn't it? And it will send a signal whenever you are increasing the volume, and whenever you are changing the program. What it will do, it will send a signal to the television in order to get it done. But what we know as a user of that remote control of the television set, what do we know is how to operate the remote control. Only that thing we know. And whenever the battery is batteries are draining, simply what we will do, we'll put the new batteries, isn't it? Only these two things we know as far as the remote control is concerned. The internal implementation, the internal design, how they have manufactured that remote control, what internal circuitry they kept, what resistors, capacitors, transistors they kept, what chips they used inside that remote control, all those things we are not considering. We are not bothering about it, isn't it? We simply bothering about whether the remote control is properly working or not, and whether the batteries are proper or not. If the remote control is not working, what we will do first in order to troubleshoot, we will check the batteries only, isn't it? Even if the batteries are full, and even if the remote control is not working, then we'll go for a technician, because we don't know how it will work and what internal implementation it is having. So this is what we call the abstraction. Hiding the implementation, showing only the functionality, okay, is nothing but the abstraction. Another example, we'll take a mobile phone, okay, any smartphone. So using a smartphone, we will send SMS, isn't it? SMS to our friends, our relatives, our colleagues. We will send the messages. Okay, text messages. When you are sending a text message, the way how use, I mean, how to type the message and what application we need to use and how we can send that message, only that thing we know. Internally what it is doing, I mean, when you are typing the message, what electrical signals it is generating and how those electrical signals will be sent from your mobile to your friend's mobile, and how in your friend's mobile the same message will be regenerated. All those things we are not bothering, isn't it? All those things, they are completely hidden. That's why we don't know how it is exactly happening. We don't know. But what we know, that we can type a message and we can send a message to our friend so that he can open that same message. First of all, he will receive that message and he can open that message and he can read that message. Only that thing we know. But internally how it is happening, we don't know. Here the internal implementation, it is hidden, and the functionality, the actual usage, it is shown to the end user. Okay, this is what we call abstraction. So these are the examples that you can remember when they ask you to write about abstraction. You can give the definition and you can write these examples. Okay, so these abstraction, how we can achieve, in the sense, there are two ways in which we can achieve the abstraction. The first way is using abstract classes. Okay, using abstract classes we can achieve the abstraction. So using abstract classes also we cannot achieve the abstraction fully, like 100%. So somewhere in the middle, 0 to 100% they are saying. So if you maintain all abstract methods inside your abstract class, then you are achieving 100% of abstraction, because your abstract class, it is a combination of two types of methods. One is concrete. Yesterday we discussed about this. One is concrete and the other one is abstract. So if your class is having only the concrete methods, if your abstract class is having only the concrete methods, then the abstraction will be 0%, because it is maintaining all implementations. It is not hiding anything. It is maintaining all implementations. So abstraction will be 0%. And if it is maintaining all abstract methods, then the abstraction will be 100%. And if it is maintaining the combination of these two, because generally whenever we give the definition of an abstract class, we say abstract class is nothing but it is a collection. It is a collection of both concrete as well as abstract methods. So it is maintaining a mixture of these two, then the abstraction will be somewhere in the middle. Not 0, not 100, but somewhere in the middle. Okay, hopefully you understood. So maintaining only the concrete methods, 0% abstraction, and maintaining only the abstract methods, 100% abstraction. So you are using interface. Using interface, what we are doing, we are getting 100% abstraction. So that means it maintains only the abstract methods. We can't put the concrete methods inside an interface. Your interface is a collection of only abstract methods. It is not going to have any implementation. It will maintain only the abstract methods. So whenever we say implementation, we are talking about concrete methods. Okay, implementation. A method with implementation is nothing but your concrete method, and a method without implementation is nothing but your abstract method. So if you maintain the implementations, then we call it as not 100%, not fully abstract. If you are maintaining the implementations, it is not fully abstract. Okay, if you are maintaining all implementations, then 0% abstract. If you are maintaining concrete as well as abstract, then it is somewhere in the middle, 0 to 100. And if you are maintaining all abstract methods, then 100% abstraction. 100% abstraction. So about these things, once again we'll get back and we'll discuss, but let's just go to the concept of this keyword, because this is one of the important thing that we need to complete in today's session. So after discussion of this keyword, once again we'll go to the abstract and we will discuss, because after this this keyword, in our next session we are going to start the interface concept, and interface achieving 100% abstraction. So before that only we need to understand everything in detail. What is a concrete method? What is an abstract method? What is a concrete class? What is an abstract class? And what is an interface? These things we need to understand before going to the interfaces concept. Okay, so this keyword, yeah, this using this keyword, we have a lot of advantages or a lot of uses in our Java programming. Okay, so super keyword we used, and super keyword we said it is a reference to the super class, isn't it? In your inheritance, when you are having is a relationship between the classes, so from the subclass, when you are referring the super class, okay, so without creating the superclass object also, you can refer the superclass members, that with the help of super keyword only we are doing. Okay, members, referring the members is nothing but referring the data members from the superclass, and referring the member methods from the superclass, and referring the constructors from the superclass. So we can refer the data members from the superclass, we can invoke the methods from the superclass, and we can even invoke the constructors from the superclass. And how we are doing all these things? With the help of super keyword. Okay, so this keyword is exactly opposite to the super keyword. So this keyword is used to refer the subclass object. So the class in which you are working, the class in which you are working, if you want to refer the if you want to refer the members of that same class within that class, if you want to refer the members of that same class within that class, we use the this keyword. Okay, so this is a variable, or this is an reference variable to the object of the current class. This is the reference variable to the object of the current class. So using this, when it is a reference variable, you can you can use it like an object in order to access the current class members. So accessing the current class data members, invoking the current class methods, and also invoking the current class constructor, we can use this keyword. So quickly, uses of this keyword. So basically it is having 6 different uses in Java, but as a practitioner or as a beginner, we are focusing only on the first 3. 1, 2, 3. So that's the reason I have not written the remaining 3. Okay, so in general, in reality, or if you go and check how many uses of this keyword we have in Java, in the sense there are 6 different uses we have with reference to this keyword in Java, but we discuss only the first 3. So as it is saying, this can be used to refer current class instance variable. In order to refer the data members, data variables or instance variables, we are using this keyword. So this keyword can be used to access, or this keyword can be used to refer the current class instance variables. Current class instance variables. But whereas super keyword, it is used to access the parent class instance variables. Okay, so then this can be used to invoke the current class methods, and this will be done implicitly, means we don't have to do anything. Okay, Java itself adds this keyword whenever you are invoking the current class method, okay, inside the same class. So this will be added, this keyword will be added implicitly. Implicitly, when we are saying, that means we don't have to add it, Java will add it automatically. But as a practice, we will add and we will try. Okay, but even if you don't add, Java will add it. Okay, so then the last one, this can be used to invoke the current class constructor. So whenever we are saying this, we are referring to this class, current class. Whenever we are saying super, we are referring to the super class. That is the basic difference between this and super keyword. Okay, so this not only used to refer the current class instance variables, this not only used to invoke the current class methods, that is implicitly, this will also be used to invoke the current class constructor. Okay, remember this one. These 3 important uses we have with this keyword, and one by one we will discuss with programs. Okay, the first one, this is used, this keyword is used to refer the current class instance variables. Okay, so the concept in the statement only, it is the concept is, it is giving. So generally, whatever instance variables we are going to have inside the current class, and if you want to access those instance variables, you have to go for this keyword. So this keyword can be used to refer current class instance variable. if there is an ambiguity between the instance variables and parameters, this keyword resolves the problem of ambiguity. So suppose if you are declaring few variables inside your class, and you're declaring a method inside a class, and to that method whatever parameters you are passing, those parameters you are taking same like your variable names, same like your instance variable names, then what will happen? An ambiguity will come. An ambiguity will come. So to avoid that ambiguity, we will go for this keyword. As you can see in this class, I have taken a class name student. Okay, the class name is student, and in this student class name, I have taken three instance variables like roll number, name, and fee. Roll number is of type integer, name is of type string, and fee is of type float. So three different variables I have taken, instance variables I have taken. Then I'm also taking the student class constructor. Okay, student class constructor I am taking, and in that constructor, when I'm passing the parameters, because it is a parameterized constructor, isn't it? Student class constructor, and it is a parameterized constructor. When I'm passing the parameters, names of those parameters I'm taking same like your instance variables, like roll number, name, and fee, same. So inside it, what I'm doing, to these instance variables, I'm initializing the parameters. So roll number equals to roll number, name equals to name, fee equals to fee. So now what will happen? There is an ambiguity. So this roll number, whatever you are taking over here, it should refer to this one or this one. It should refer to the instance variable or it should refer to the parameter. There is an ambiguity. So for our consideration, this roll number should be the instance variable and this roll number should be the parameter, because parameter will receive the value from the main method and that value we are initializing to the instance variable. This is our consideration, but your compiler will not understand in that way. The compiler will give an ambiguity, an error over here. Okay, and an error over here. So to avoid this thing, to avoid this particular scenario, what we are doing, we are going with this keyword. Okay, so quickly I will show you this thing working, okay, in our compiler. So just go to the edit plus, and here you create a class with name. What is my class name? Student. Student is my class name, and in it I am keeping integer, roll number, then string, s name, student name I am taking, then float, what is that? Fee. Okay, s fee, student fee, like this I am taking. So now student of, I am calling the constructor student of, here pass the parameters same like these, same like these. Okay, integer, roll, here you put underscores, here you put underscore, roll underscore number, then string s underscore name, comma, fee, float s underscore fee. So in this constructor, what you do, assign a roll number to roll number, roll underscore number, then s name, student name to s name, sorry, s name to student name, s name to s underscore name, because whatever values I am receiving with the help of parameters, those I am assigning. Then s fee equals to s underscore fee. Like this I am initializing all my variables, and then what I am doing, I am displaying, I am taking another method, void display of, okay, no parameters, okay, simply system dot out dot println of, I'm printing all those things, like I'm printing the roll number, I'm printing the name, and I'm printing the fee. Okay, first you print a roll number, okay, give some space in between, okay, print the name, okay, then give some space, then print fee. So like this we are printing all the details. So this thing I'm doing inside my display method, where I'm doing inside my display method I am printing. So after this, yes, this class is over. Okay, take another class. What we are practicing over here, we are practicing this keyword. So demo this demo of create the uh, objects of student class. Okay, put the public static void main of string args. Okay, then put student s1 equals to, okay, new student of. Pass the values. First we need to pass, I mean, for the constructor you check what we have over there, because this is the constructor call. So for pass the values, first roll number we have to pass, roll number like 1001. Okay, then name I need to pass, isn't it? Name. Okay, Akbar I have taken. Then the last one, fee I need to pass, some 12,000 rupees. Okay, 12,000 the fee amount. Then create another object, student s2 equals to new student of, pass the roll number, then name you pass, okay, something, then values, fee value 14,000. So now what I have to do, the constructor it is already invoked, so I need to invoke the display method, s1 dot display. Okay, then s2 dot display. Because we have taken different names for both our instance variables and student constructor parameters, we have taken different names, so there is no need of this keyword over here, and we will not get any issues. Okay, what is our main class name? This demo. Okay, here you come and save as, put the class name dot java. Okay, hit the enter key. So this one got saved. Now come over here and compile. See, we got errors, can't find the symbol s underscore name. So here what I passed, so this, maybe this one is capital S, it is here, I will put small s, control S. So now compile, s name, E is missing over here, so that is, yeah, here I need to put E. Save it, compile, it is successful. Now go and run. See, we got the same student 1 details as well as student 2 details, whatever we are printing. Okay, so there is no ambiguity, there is no issue, because my instance variables as well as my parameters to the constructors, they are having different names. There is no ambiguity in the names. Okay, so where comes the because of this reason, without the use of this keyword also we got the output. But now I will create the ambiguity. I will take the same names both for my parameters as well as my instance variables. So what I have to do, simply remove these underscores, whatever we have in between, remove this underscore, and here also you remove the underscore. Now come over here and remove these things underscores, because there are no underscores now even when you are displaying. Okay, and that's it. So now what will happen, yes, here also you won't get any issues. Okay, your compiler, it is not a compile time error, you will not get any compiler issue. It will, the program will be executed successfully, but you will get logical error, you will get all zeros, because whatever values you are receiving and initializing, it is somewhat different. Okay, maybe this roll number, it can refer to the instance variable, as instance variable it is holding nothing, isn't it? So what will happen, these two roll numbers, okay, assignment operator left side and assignment operator right side, it will be considered like the instance variable only, and you will get the same thing. So we will check how the program will give the response. So just compile it, compilation successful, and run it. See, you are getting 0 null 0 0. Okay, 0 null 0 0. So that means this is, all these things, both left hand side and right hand side, it is considering like the instance variable only. It is not considering the parameters which you passed. It is not considering the parameters which you passed. Both it is considering like instance variables only. As instance variables, they are holding nothing. Okay, so because these instance variables and these assignment operators operator, it is not performing successfully. Okay, these assignment operations, they are not performed successfully. So because of that reason, you are getting roll number as 0, name as null, and fee as 0 only. Okay, that was an issue over here. So how we can differentiate between when you have the common names, when you have the same names both for your instance variables as well as your parameters to the constructor or to the method, how we can differentiate means simply put this keyword over here. So this dot roll number, yani the instance variable specifically, and this roll number is my parameter. Okay, so here also this dot s name, so instance variable specifically, then this dot fee, like this. So now these are my parameters and these are my instance variables of this class. These are parameters and this dot roll number means the instance variables. Using instance we are accessing. So these are instance variable. This is nothing but the object of the current class, the object of the student class. Object of the student class dot roll number, it represents the instance of that instance of that student class. Okay, come to tools, compile it, successfully compiled. Just go here and run. Yes, without any issues you are getting the successful output. So this is representing the instance variables and this is representing the parameters. So hopefully you understood. So first I showed you when you took the variables names differently, if you don't put any ambiguity in terms of naming, then what will happen? The program will be executed successfully and you got the perfect output. The second one, I have created the ambiguity by taking the both instance variable names as well as the parameter names same. So there we got the ambiguity, and because of that, whatever initializations we performed inside that constructor body, all those initializations have not worked, and I got the zeros for integers, float, 0.0 for float, and null for string values. Then what I have done, using this keyword, I have distinguished between the parameters and the instance variables. So when I have done that one, I got the perfect result. Okay, so hopefully you understood this using this keyword in Java, the first one. Okay, so this is the problem I explained and this is the solution I did using this keyword. Okay, here you can see I added this keyword so as to get the perfect output, the error-free output. Okay, so hope you understood this one. Then the next one, yeah, where we don't need this keyword in the sense if both instance variables and formal arguments, if they are different, if we have different names, there we don't need this keyword. Okay, so this keyword to invoke the current class methods. So not only the not only to access the instance variables of the current class, but also to invoke the current class methods, we can use this keyword. To invoke the method of the current class, this keyword can be used. If you don't use this keyword, compiler automatically adds this keyword while invoking the method. I will show you both the ways. By adding this keyword, by not adding this keyword, because there is no ambiguity over there. Even if you don't add this keyword, the compiler itself adds this keyword and invokes the method. Okay, so here you can check that program. We have a class, a normal class A. Okay, in that I took two methods. One is m method and the other one is n method. Okay, inside this n method, I am calling the m method, as you can see over here. I am calling the m method. Okay, so when you are invoking this m method, so it will invoke this m method. So you can use this dot m. Even if you put normal m, what the compiler will do? The compiler will add this dot m. Okay, so this is the simplest thing we are doing, we are practicing over here. So just go to the program and do that one. So here put student only, no issues, and remove all these things. Then what we have to do, take one method, void m method we are taking, and inside it hello m or hello n normal messages I kept, student.out.println. Okay, hello m. Okay, because we are I mean we are writing this message inside m method, hello m. Then what I have done, void n method I'm taking, and inside this n method what I am doing, system dot out dot ln of, okay, hello n, hello n I kept. Okay, and I'm also calling the m method from this one. I have not added the this keyword now. So this dot demo, inside it I'm creating the object of s class, student class. Go to the end, remove this, and using the object, what I am doing, I'm invoking my n method. So if you invoke the n method, it will in turn invoke the m method, isn't it? So s1 dot n off. So no need to pass these things, create the normal constructor. Okay, hopefully you understood. Void main string args, s1 object we have created, s1 dot n we are invoking. Save the program. Here program name and my public class name both same. So just go tools and compile. Successfully compiled. Then if you run, you will get the output, hello n and hello m. Both messages we are getting. That means it is invoking both the methods even without using the this keyword. So just what the compiler is doing when you are writing like this means your compiler is adding the this keyword over here. It is invoking that m method by doing it like this. Okay, this dot m off. So if I do that thing same, your compiler will not generate any issue. It will consider it and it will execute it. So this dot m also same. Okay, I'm invoking the current class method. Okay, even if there is no ambiguity and you're trying to add the m method, see, you are getting the same output, hello m and hello n. So as you can see, when you are executing, when you are compiling this program, the compiler is making this statement in this way. That's the reason even if you are adding this keyword, you are not getting any issue, and the compiler is considering that one and executing the program. Hopefully you understood. So the last important use of this keyword is to invoke the constructor of the current class. Okay, to invoke the constructor of the current class, we use the this keyword like a method. Okay, this constructor call can be used to invoke the current class constructor. It is used to reuse the constructor. In other words, it is used for constructor chaining. Suppose if you have more than one constructor inside a single class, one without any parameters, one with parameters, one with some more parameters, like that you have different constructors definitions in your class. That is nothing but constructor overloading, overloaded constructors in your class. So if you want to class one constructor from another constructor, when you have overloaded constructors, if you want to call one constructor from another constructor, how you can do means using this keyword only you can achieve that one. Okay, we'll go and demonstrate one example. So class calling default constructor from parameterized constructor. So what I have done over here, I have taken a class with name a. Okay, a, and what I am doing inside a class, I am keeping hello a message, and in that I'm taking another this is my constructor, default constructor of a class. I'm taking parameterized constructor, and in this parameterized constructor I'm taking one parameter and I'm printing the value of that parameter on the output screen. And you can see inside this parameterized constructor, the first statement I kept like this off. So this off means what it will do, it will call the constructor, default constructor. Why it will call default constructor means because when you are calling when you are calling that constructor using this, you have not passed any parameter, so it will be considered like a default constructor. So this we will practice quickly. Just go here to the program and put that student constructor first, or change the name to a, both are same. Remove all these things. Okay, remove all these things and make the class name, instead of student, just make it a, and in it one default constructor. Okay, system dot out dot println of, okay, hello a, hello a. This is from a, default constructor. This is from default constructor we are getting. Another one, you take parameterized constructor int x. Okay, into it you put the text value, you output the text value, print println of x we are outputting. Just come down and create the object of that a class and invoke. Just creating is enough because we don't have any method or any instance variables. Just creating object is enough. So a equals to new a of, and invoke the parameterized constructor by passing some value 20. So this will invoke which constructor? This constructor. Okay, the second constructor, and you will get the value of x on the output screen. Just see, the program name is same. Compile it, successfully got compiled, then run it. When you execute it, you can see the value 20 you are seeing on the output screen. You're not getting this message. You're not getting this message. So how to get this message? How to invoke these constructors like a chain? Chain means first I want to invoke the default constructor, then I want to invoke the parameterized constructor. How you can invoke these constructors like a chain means just put the call over here. This off. That's it. So this will invoke. So basically your object creation will invoke only the parameterized constructor. It will not invoke the default constructor. So it is invoking the parameterized constructor, this constructor with x value. So then inside that you kept the call to the default constructor. So what will happen whenever the control comes over here to the parameterized constructor, inside that the first statement is invoking the default constructor. So the default constructor gets invoked. You will get hello a, and after that you will get the x value. So come to tools, compile it. Successfully got compiled. So now I will see both the messages on the output screen. As you can see, hello a as well as 20 the parameter value. So both constructors are getting invoked. Your default constructor, so you are getting hello a. Your parameterized constructor, so you are getting value 20. So in this way, whatever constructors we have, we can chain them with the help of this keyword. Okay, we can chain them. So we are invoking only the parameterized constructor, which in turn invoking the default constructor. So we framed a chaining over here. Okay, so this is what the constructor calling using this keyword. So again, calling parameterized constructor from default constructor. This also you can do. Calling parameterized constructor from default constructor. How we can do means just put this thing, remove this from here, put this thing over here. This off, but now we are invoking the parameterized constructor. So put 20 like this. Okay, we are invoking the parameterized constructor. So here you need to pass one parameter because your parameter constructor will take one value. So you need to pass the value 20 over here. So now what will happen? Here you remove this 20. You remove this 20. So now what will happen? It will invoke your object creation, your instantiation will invoke only the default constructor. It will not invoke the parameterized constructor. It will invoke only the default constructor. So the control will jump from here to here. So now after this what we'll have? We have the invocation of my parameterized constructor. So the control will jump from here to here and x value will become 20. So that 20 you are printing on the output screen. So this message you will get first. Then the control will come back. After executing the parameterized constructor, the control will come back to this call. Then it will execute this output statement with hello a message. So 20 hello a. You will get 20 followed by hello a message on the output screen. As you can see, the program got compiled successfully. Then we are running the program and we are getting the output 20 followed by hello a. Hopefully you understood this one. Okay. So this is something about the constructors in your calling constructors using this keyword, calling the current class constructors using this keyword. So the next thing we need to understand, because in my next session I am going to start the interfaces concept, the very important concept in your Java, the interfaces. Okay. So to understand what is an interface, we need to have some clear idea on abstraction, because interface is a way through which we are achieving 100% abstraction. 100% abstraction. How we are achieving 100% abstraction with the interface? Okay, that we need to understand in today's session so that we can do the practical stuff in our next session. Okay, so the term abstraction is hiding the implementation. Simply, what does it mean? Abstraction mean hiding the implementation. So what is implementation in our programming? What is implementation in our programming? Implementation is nothing but providing code. Providing code, giving code. Providing code is nothing but implementation in our programming. So if you don't give, hiding the implementation means hiding the code. If you don't give the code, that becomes abstraction. Okay, that becomes abstraction. So generally, where we keep our code inside a class, where we keep our code using variables, can we do coding? Not possible. Variables, they are used to store the values, data values only. Using variables, we are not giving any code. So where we are keeping the code? Inside methods we are keeping the code. Okay, inside methods we are keeping the code. So methods are responsible for holding the code. So methods are responsible for holding the code. So these methods, we are saying when we are achieving the abstraction, we are hiding the code. So what we are doing? So methods, they can have the code and they cannot have the code. No code. No code. So methods, they can either have the code or they cannot have the code. There are two possibilities. They can either have the code or they cannot have the code. So the methods which are having code, we call them as concrete methods. Concrete methods. The methods which are having the code, we call them as concrete methods. And the methods with no code, we call them as abstract methods. Abstract methods. The methods with no code, we call them as abstract methods. The methods with code, we call them as concrete methods. Hope you understood this one. So the concrete methods, let us take an example. Example method name with some body. Void, then example with some parameters. Okay, integer a, like this. And then it is a concrete method. So it will have the code. Okay. So how we are providing that code? Using the curly brackets, body of the method. So like this, here we are keeping the code, our code. So this is with implementation. We are giving the implementation. We are giving the implementation. So this method is a concrete method. If you have the implementation, we call that method as a concrete method. Then abstract method. What do you mean by abstract? Abstraction means no code. So simply give the method signature. That's enough. Void. So abstract we need to, because we are making this method as an abstract method, so we need to use the abstract keyword as well. Okay, so before that, just because you don't want to give any code, you don't want to give any implementation, so you need to make the method as abstract method. So abstract is the keyword that we use. Abstract, the return type void, and the method name example, and the parameter int a. Int a. So at the end you will have semicolon. Whenever you are keeping the abstract method, at the end you will have the semicolon, because it is an abstract method. It will not have any implementation. It will not have any implementation. So inside a concrete method, we are going to have full implementation, and inside an concrete method, inside an abstract method, we are not going to have any implementation. So remember this one. So now come to our normal class. Okay, then abstract class, and then the interface. Okay, normal class, abstract class, and interface. So normal class, it should have only the concrete methods. Only the concrete methods. Your normal class should have only the concrete methods. Your abstract class, it can have both. So normal class, the abstraction level is 0% because it is having full implementations. It is not having any abstract methods. So the abstraction level 0%. Your abstract class, it can have both concrete as well as abstract. Both concrete as well as abstract methods. So the abstraction level somewhere between 0 to 100%. If you maintain all concrete methods inside a class, all concrete methods, then the abstraction level will be 0. And if you maintain all abstract methods inside an abstract class, if you maintain all abstract methods, then the abstraction level will be 100%. And if you maintain a mixture, the abstraction level will be somewhere in the middle, 0 to 100. Hopefully you understood. Then in an interface, you can keep only the abstract methods. So the abstraction level over here, 100%. You need to understand this one. Concept is very simple. We have different things over here. The first one, the abstract class, it will have only, abstract class, it will have, so first we have normal class, isn't it? First we have normal class, it will have only the concrete methods. Normal class, it will have only the concrete methods. So concrete method means method with implementation. Method with implementation. So the abstraction level will be, if you are giving all implementations, then the abstraction level will be 0%. Your abstract class, you can have mixture, concrete as well as abstract. So the abstraction level will be 0 to 100. 0 to 100. Then finally, the interface, in an interface, you can have only abstract methods. So the abstraction level will be 100% over here. Okay, 100% over here. 0%, 0 to 100% and 100%. See, when you can instantiate a class means if you have the full implementation. If you have full implementation, then only you can instantiate a class. So under these three, what class I can instantiate? Only the concrete class. Because yeah, see, one more name over here. If you have only the concrete methods within a class, we call that class as an concrete class. Concrete class means a class with only concrete methods. So 0% abstraction. So only the concrete class can be instantiated because it is not having any partial implementation. It is having the full implementations, isn't it? Because of that reason, we can instantiate the concrete class. There is no doubt. For sure, you can instantiate a concrete class because it will not allow the partial implementations. Then we have the abstract class. Can we instantiate? Can we create the object of an abstract class? Means no, it is not possible because it will have partial implementations. Some concrete methods and some abstract methods you have. When you have abstract methods, the implementation of those abstract methods is missing. So because of that reason, we cannot instantiate an abstract class. Okay. Then finally, the interface. If you have an interface, that interface also we cannot instantiate because all the methods inside your interface are abstract methods. They will not have any implementation. So it is highly impossible to instantiate an interface. Hopefully you understood. Only the concrete class can be instantiated. We can create the full object of an concrete class and we can invoke all the methods of an concrete class. But abstract class we can't instantiate and interface we can't instantiate. See, if you're not having the implementations, then what is the advantage of having abstract classes and interfaces in our programming means? Yeah, if you have created an abstract class, let us assume abstract class, and in that class what you are doing is you are keeping two concrete methods. This understanding is also very important. Two concrete methods I am keeping and three abstract methods I am keeping. Three abstract methods. So total how many methods I have inside this abstract class? I have 5 methods. In that 5 methods, 2 methods are concrete and 3 methods are abstract. So 2 methods are having implementations and 3 methods are not having the implementation. So to give the implementation of these 3 methods, what I have to do, I have to inherit one class, I have to inherit another class from this abstract class, and I have to implement all these methods. So here an important point that you need to understand. So can I do like this inside a concrete class? Inside a concrete class, can I put two concrete methods? Yes, possible. Two concrete methods I can keep because the full implementations. Can I keep abstract methods inside a concrete class? Not possible. So in order to put the abstract methods, your class needs to be abstract. Okay, because by taking a class as an abstract, you are telling the compiler that it is not having the full implementation. But when you are making a class as a concrete class, and if you are omitting the abstract keyword, if you are not taking the abstract keyword when you are defining the class, your compiler will consider that class as a concrete class, and your compiler will consider that class will have full implementations of all the methods. Okay, so it is highly impossible to put the abstract methods inside a concrete class. You cannot put, but you can put both abstract as well as concrete methods inside an abstract class. So these abstract methods can be implemented by an extended class, that is nothing but the subclass. So take a subclass from this abstract class and give the implementation. Here I will use the keyword extends, and I will make the second class as a concrete class. So when I'm making my second class as concrete class, we will discuss. So if I make the subclass as concrete class, my responsibility is, okay, concrete class, my responsibility over here is I need to give the implementations of all three methods. I need to give the implementations for all three methods inside my concrete class. Okay, because it is concrete class, it cannot have the partial implementations. When it is inheriting, automatically it is extending these two concrete methods as well as these three abstract methods. Automatically it is inheriting. So that means when it is inheriting the partial implementations, this has to give the full implementations of these methods by overriding. Okay, so now what it has to do, it has to, what it will have two concrete methods which it will invoke from the parent class, parent abstract class, two concrete methods, and it will also have what? Implementations of three abstract methods. Three implementations of abstract methods. So when you are taking the second class like a concrete class, when you are taking the subclass like a concrete class, is there any flexibility that I can give the implementation for only two classes and I want to maintain another class like an abstract only? Is it possible? Not possible. Why? Means because being a concrete class, it should have the full implementations. It should have the full implementations. Let us assume I don't want to give the implementations for all three. I want to give implementations for only two, and I want to maintain the third method like an abstract method only. Then what I have to do? Extend this abstract class and make the second class also an abstract class only. Okay, second class also an abstract class only. Then what you can do? You can omit the implementations. You can give the partial implementations. You cannot give the full implementations. So now what I will do here in this abstract class, which I have extended from an already existing abstract class. So here what I am doing, I am getting two concrete methods. and I am giving, it is having three abstract methods. So I am giving two implementations for my abstract methods, and I am maintaining the last one as abstract method only. Abstract method. This understanding, if you don't understand, believe me, you are going to suffer a lot in future sessions. First, we are having the concrete class. Concrete class will have only the concrete methods. Abstract class, combination of two, concrete as well as abstract. then finally the inherent interface, it will have only the abstract methods. So in an abstract class, we can put the mixture. We can put both concrete as well as abstract methods. In a concrete class, it is not possible. You have to give the full implementations and you can maintain only the concrete methods. So how we can make an abstract method like a concrete method means by giving the implementation, by overriding it and by giving the implementation to it. Okay. Can I maintain the abstract methods inside a concrete class? Not possible. Not allowed at all. So if I want the extended class, in the extended class from an abstract class, if I don't want to give the full implementations, then make the extended class also like an abstract class, because it will also have the partial implementations. Even after the implementation, it will have the partial implementations. So that's the reason we make that second class also as an abstract class, because if you make the second class like a concrete class, keeping that abstract method is not allowed. Hopefully you understood. So with this understanding, in our mind, we will start the concept of interface in our next session. Already I have given the definition of the interface. Just we need to discuss the concepts over there, how we can create an interface, what keywords we use when we create an interface, and how we can extend, how we can create a sub interface from an existing super interface. All these things we will discuss in our tomorrow's session. See, for your mid exams, if possible, after the interfaces, if possible, if we have enough time, we will complete the packages concept also. If not, I will consider up to interfaces. Okay, up to interfaces, your first internal exam will be. If I cover something from the packages, that also I will include in your first mid. So be ready with your preparation, because anytime soon you are going to get the call from the department that we are conducting the internal exams. Maybe by the time you will watch this video, because this video I am going to broadcast maybe 2 days after, so by the time you will watch this video, maybe they have posted the timetable and other stuff on the on your groups. So be prepared for your exams. There will be exams. There is no escaping from exams. Okay. Soon or the earlier, I will post the important questions from the second unit as well. Only from the first unit I have posted already the important questions. For CSC people, we are ahead, isn't it? We have almost completed the second unit for CSC people, but for IT people we are lagging. Okay, soon we will pick up and we will move and we will complete as early as possible, because the concepts, if you see from the second unit, in one class I can complete half of the unit, which was not possible in your first unit. First unit, it took like 15 to 16 sessions for us to complete, because lot many concepts, lot many understandings, lot many doubts. Because of that reason we took much of the time. But from the second unit, it won't take that much of time. Interfaces, hardly I will take one class to wind up. Then we have the concept of packages, it will take another class. Multi-threading, another class. Exception handling, one class. Then collections framework, it will take some 2 to 3 classes. Likewise, we will proceed and we will wind up all the stuff from your Java programming. Okay, by that time, thank you very much, students.